Hello. It's been a little while since we hung out, so I thought I would just tell you what I've been up to over the summer. Starting at the beginning of the year, I was posting a YouTube video a week with updates and insights into what I had been working on and how things were going. As I got to the summer, I had a couple of weeks here and there where I disappeared with the family. And so it became impractical to do a video a week. And so I decided I'd do a video every 2 weeks. And the same week I decided that, I put 2 videos out. And then I went on holiday and... to be honest with you, I read a couple of books and realised that I didn't want to make a video every week. I just wanted to make videos when I felt like making videos. But I feel like making a video now. In fact, I think I might be making 3 videos this week. So what have I been up to over the summer? Well, the months of July, August and September have been pretty focused on one project in particular. I have been given the opportunity to pitch a Gaslands board game. No commitment about whether this is real or not. I simply got an opportunity to pitch something. So I started work on that in maybe late June, early July. And the project was kind of all-consuming. It required me to get more specific and strategic about what board games I was buying and playing for a little while. So I picked up some games that I had on my radar for a while, but I knew that I wanted to do a racing and shooting game that had some kind of press your luck elements, but I didn't know what kind of game it was going to be. So I spent a lot of time looking at other people's games, playing them, and making prototypes. So most of this summer has been spent making prototypes for a Gaslands board game. And what I realised through that process, number one, making board games is really hard. Number two, when you make a miniatures game, it's sort of one thing. It's like a miniatures war game, and that's what it is. And you can innovate around within that. But with a board game, it can be anything. It can be literally anything. It could be cards, could be boards, could be spaces, could have miniatures in it, could be economic, could be action-based, could be dexterity-based. And so I went through a ton of ideas about what the board game could be. And in each case, I was sort of prototyping things, trying them. Did quite a lot of playtesting with my 7 and 5-year-old daughters, which was awesome. And then each time I had something that I felt was an exciting prototype, I would bring it to one of my friends and I would play it with them. And I would learn whether or not it felt like what I was going for. Long story short, because I'm not going to go into too much detail about the actual design of the Gaslands board game prototype. I'll probably do a whole other video on that at some point. But suffice to say, at the end of September, just a couple of weeks ago, I got to the point where I had a kind of proper pitch deck ready. In particular, I had some confidence about what the component list would be, because again, making a miniatures game, particularly one that's just a book, I'm used to just pitching like, there'll be a book, here's how many pages it'll be. And I don't really have to design the game particularly completely in order to sell the idea of that book in, because I'm in the lucky position of having proved my design chops in that regard. But in this case, in order to take the game forward into their publishing meetings, the board game publisher, Osprey in this case, needs to know what the component list will be and how much art there's going to be, and you know what kind of a weight of bits and bobs will be in the box, so that they can figure out whether the price point makes sense. All of which is kind of insane to me, because that means you have to design like an enormous amount of the game in order to be confident about what's going to be in the box. So with that realization, I decided to sort of focus almost entirely on this project for basically 3 sustained months, and got somewhere that I'm excited and confident about. still don't know exactly how the game works, because I've got design pillars that I'm absolutely certain of, but the exact implementations of those, I've got multiple prototypes and they all look okay. So it's just going to be trying to figure out if and when they decide to pick this game up, then at some point in the future there'll be some subsequent months where I have to re-engage with the design and actually make those decisions. But anyway, so that project is kind of done for now. Like, the game isn't done, but the project isn't something that I'm going to be worrying about for a while. So now we're in October, and I've got lots of other things that I want to be doing, and so maybe I'll tell you a little bit about the other things that I did over the summer and what might be coming up next. So although I worked almost entirely on the Gaslands board game, there was a few other bits and bobs that I was working on in the interim. I have been working slowly on a game called Berserker for a while, which was an idea that I came up with back in one of the designer chats that we used to have for the Blaster anthology. I pitched this idea of a game where you could have as many activations as you wanted, as long as you kept killing demons, and each demon you killed gave you kind of more energy or activation points to continue killing demons. So I've been working on that for a while, and had an opportunity to show it to someone over the summer, so I was doing a little bit of work to sharpen up the prototype for that. I also recently, as a sort of reward for getting to the publisher pitch for the Gaslands board game, I set that aside, and then I started an intensive period of model making and kit bashing and painting and game design and playtesting and photography and layout, and in exactly 3 days of effort, I made a new game called Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands, which is my entry to the One Box Wargame competition, which is the thing I talked about on what is probably the last video on this feed. So that was really fun. That was an idea that had been sitting around since probably lockdown, because during lockdown I had a game table set up next to my office, so although I was doing work during the day, I could always rotate my chair around and just play on this little 3-foot table I had set up. Had my Gaslands templates, and I was trying all kinds of silly ways of using the Gaslands templates for gaming with other miniatures, and little sailing ships with Gaslands templates, and broadsides with the sort of large splash template. That was an idea that has always been fun, and I came up with a cool sort of 3-dial wind gauge thing, which was my kind of widget solution to making sailing points sort of super easy and transparent to read. So that's available. You can download that. This one's for free because it's part of the One Box Wargame, so you can head on over to planetsmashergames.itch.io and have a look at that Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sand. I'm going to do a longer video on that because not only did I work on it for a period of like 3 days, I also filmed almost all of the parts of it. So I'm going to do a video where I show how I started the design, how I built the models, the initial play testing, some of the layout, how I did the ship cards and built those, how I did the photography, how I edited the photographs. So yeah, I'm excited to share that process in a bit more detail with you. Hopefully that'll be interesting. This week I should have been editing that video, but instead I have been painting all of the 200 odd miniatures from the War of the Ring. Well, I say painting them, I've just been colouring them in. I've basically undercoated them and sprayed them all a single metallic colour. But I'm really excited that I've finally found someone who's a big enough Tolkien nut to want to play War of the Ring with me. So I finally had an excuse to pick that up, and looking forward to playing that next week with a lovely fully painted set of armies. And actually, as with all things, when I'm digging into a game that excites me as much as War of the Ring does in my imagination, that's obviously got my design brain going as well. So there'd been a conversation in the Electi Discord, the Hobgoblin section, about what a Hobgoblin campaign system might look like. And I've got a bunch of ideas from that. Some that I'd had previously for some rejected material for A Billion Suns, was a campaign system that didn't fit in the rulebook, and I never managed to find the time to develop enough to publish separately. So I've got some ideas for like a Dudes on the Map game as a campaign system, and my brain is turning around at the moment about like how that could be. Could it be a sort of map or component agnostic thing? Would it be something where you're invited to use multiple game systems? Is it a Hobgoblin specific thing? Yeah, anyway, so trying to think of like a component light. I've got a set of Mighty Empires upstairs. I've always been obsessed with that game. So something in it's something in the sort of area of Mighty Empires, War of the Ring, but probably like driven by, I don't know, bits of hex paper and maybe a deck of plain playing cards so that you can play Hobgoblin campaigns. Anyway, I'm just spitballing at this point. It's just notes in my notebook at the moment, but I don't know if I'm doing anything with it. So what am I going to be doing things with? So there are probably three main focuses for this next 3-month period leading up to Christmas and the end of the year. Number one is over the summer I've been working with Till Forster, the illustrator for Space Gits, and we are mostly done on the illustrations for Space Gits. We've just got the front cover left. When the illustrations are done, then I am going to set about doing the painting and the terrain, getting the photographs done, and then laying the thing out. And once I'm at that point where I've got the layout done, then I'm ready basically to take it to Kickstarter, which I won't probably do until the beginning of next year. I want to be confident about what I'm doing. And yeah, so that's going to be one of my focuses, is getting Space Gits Kickstarter ready. And I'm really excited about that game. I think it is extremely fun. And I think it's really different and something kind of lively and different in the crowded space of skirmish miniature games. Oh, that reminds me, actually, I mentioned this on the Rule of Carnage, but the other thing that I worked on over the summer was a dexterity game, a bit like Gaslands, which involves flicking toy cars around. I said that I was doing a lot of prototypes for the board game, for the Gaslands board game, and that Gaslands board games, and that a board game can kind of be anything. So I got this idea of, well, what would a dexterity Gaslands game be? And it's absolutely not what I needed to pitch at Osprey. In fact, if I could, I'd rather pitch it at Mattel. But I've got this really, really interesting and extremely fun flicking game, which I play tested a lot with sort of 7 to 9 year olds over the summer, and they all really adored it. So I don't know, maybe that ends up being a Kickstarter project as well. It needs custom dice and Jenga blocks in addition to toy cars. So it's probably a manufactured box of things. So maybe once I've got a little bit more confidence, maybe I'll do that. But that's potentially very, very cool. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so the three things that I'm doing this quarter, Space Gits is one of them. The second is working some more on Berserker, because I want to get it into a state where I can properly pitch it to the people who are interested in it. And they've had some cool ideas about how to make that game like visually really cool, but it has some implications on the potential games design. So I'm going to try a bit more prototyping. I'd been developing a specific prototype, and I'm pretty happy with that prototype, but there's a couple of ideas that have been thrown at me which I think are really interesting, and so I'm going to explore those ideas and create some new prototypes. And the third thing that I'm going to work on in this quarter is something that I haven't talked about yet because it only just got confirmed over the summer, and that is A Billion Suns 2nd edition. So if you don't know it, A Billion Suns is my spaceship game from Osprey, and it was my difficult second album. Gaslands was very approachable, had some innovative ideas, but wasn't too wacky. A Billion Suns was a bit of a prog rock album and had some high concepts, and they were executed okay, but it's a pretty dense game to get into, even though at its core it's actually quite simple, and the quick start rules I tried to use to prove how simple the game was. But with the benefit of hindsight, or rather with an opportunity to do a new, refreshed version of the game, there are a few things that I'm really excited about. I'm going to go into some more detail about my design goals for A Billion Suns 2nd Edition, and I want to take you through the process of that game in more detail. However, what I will say is that I think that at its heart, there's a really fun combat system. The silhouettes and the funny sized dice and the simplified movement and the orders and everything, I think that's really cool. And I was obsessed with the first edition of the game in making people engage with the weird economic system that lies at the heart of the game, to the point where I was quite hostile to them just playing sort of line 'em up and shoot 'em games. I still don't think that that's the best way to play spaceship games, and it isn't the way that my imagination works when it comes to ships teleporting in and stuff. But I talked to you last time. I was talking about A Billion Suns in this chair. I was talking about A Billion Suns Domination, which was essentially me exploring what would A Billion Suns as a straight up battle game look like. That project's now shelved because I'm going to take all of that thinking and the question of what can A Billion Suns offer players now that they maybe are feeling that Star Wars Armada has gone away. And I think one of my key objectives with A Billion Suns 2nd Edition is to really make A Billion Suns just a broader toolkit. I'm going to keep that crazy, bizarre, economic driven core systems contract game. I'm going to keep that at the heart of it, but it's only going to be one of a few different modes that you can play. So I want to emphasize that the basic engine, the basic system of A Billion Suns is a, fast playing, simple movement, fun, interesting combat system, some interaction with the orders and so forth. I'm going to keep all of that. I'm going to bring that to the forefront and say, once you've learnt this core engine, then you can play multiple kinds of different games. And some of them will be games where you bring a list. Some of them will be games where you buy ships in. Some of them will be games where you start with stuff on the table. Some will be games where you deploy things as the game unfolds. And all of those things are kind of intermixable. And it's an opportunity to just revisit a lot of the complexity that I put into the game that maybe isn't serving the best purpose. And I don't think I'm going to redesign the game really at all. I think I'm just going to clip a bunch of sort of wiggly sprue bits that are sticking off the edge, get rid of some of the stuff that just doesn't really need to be there, and trim the game down to a much more digestible, coherent core system, and then have some really wacky and exciting ways to play and ways to sort of tell the sort of space stories that you want and play the kind of spaceship battle games that you want to play. The rough timeline for A Billion Suns 2nd Edition is I'm going to work on getting a kind of playtesting draft ready by maybe the end of the year, because I want to spend at least 6 to 9 months next year with you guys beta testing it publicly, iterating it and making sure it's as good as it can be, because I've got essentially a year to hand in the manuscript, and then it'll probably be about a year after that. So we're looking at, like, the time horizon here with publishing is always about kind of 2 years. So that's going to be one of my main focuses, and I'm very excited about that because it's a game that I love, and that most of the hard work of like prototyping and discovering what that game is already done. This is about having another swing at making the game a really fun, approachable kind of toolkit for just all of the best spaceship fun. So yeah, that's going to be amazing. What else do I want to say? I've got a whole rant about a few books that I read which have really helped me shape my mindset and feel more productive and creative, but also less stressed. I'm not going to do that rant now, but it is one of the reasons why I'm probably not going to post videos with quite the same relentless urgency that I have done in the first half of this year. But at the same time, when I've got something to say, I will stick a camera in front of myself and tell you about it. So if you're interested in seeing more of what goes on in the next 3 months, the next year, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, which is fantastic because it lets YouTube know that I'm working on stuff and people are interested in the things I'm working on. And when it comes to running a Kickstarter next year, that's going to suddenly become a little bit more financially important. Speaking of financially important things, if you want to see more from me and you would like to see me keep working on videos like this and games like the ones that I am working on and putting out, the main way that I'm funding my existence right now is through my Patreon. So you can go over to patreon.com/PlanetSmasherGames and consider buying me a cup of coffee to keep these games being made. Well, until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for putting up with a summer radio silence. And I'm really excited to share more about A Billion Suns 2nd edition. And I'm really excited to share more of the design process of the things that I'm working on. And so until next time, bye-bye.